For me, there wasn't much thinking to do in the beginning because my mother's an artist and she was both a dancer and an actor in Malayalam theatre. Sometimes I actually think that the art just passes through me. Like the walk, very particularly, I don't see myself as having made it. I see it as something over a period of days, particularly post her death, something that was happening out there on the street, something that was happening in all of us, something that probably happened in me as an artist. And then when I was asked to perform a piece, it just comes out and it's there. So I don't see a sense of ownership in that sense. But once it is made, I can recognize where it came from. Every morning you'd wake up to this. Again, you'd wake up to Jyoti Pandey actually, and then I would turn on the television and just figure out where people are walking. I found it very difficult to sit here, so I just go and walk. But also, we were living in a kind of time when you couldn't say no. Because there was something about that event that had taken everything out of you actually, post December 16, that to say no felt. I couldn't get myself to say no, not because I was feeling guilty as an artist. You just didn't know how to say no. Okay, come to a march, you say yeah. Oh, will you come to that meeting? Okay, yeah, unthinkingly. Okay, will you do a piece? I said yeah. And then after that I put the phone, this is 30th December. You would never think to take on something on stage so half-baked. But we were all full of a feeling and a sense of purpose and something that had to get done or said on that stage. That's all I knew. And then now if I go to school, if I go to high school kids, some things get raised, like the thing about consent and how, boys and girls, how we look for building consent between us. How I, as a young girl, took a long time to know the meaning of no. No, what is no? All of that. When you go to, I realized actually doing the walk that a lot of my audience were boys and young men. And they would sort of come forward and listen with a sense of, kya hai ye? They are the people who would ask questions. Like in one college, a boy at the end of it said, तो मैडम आपकी क्या राय है, लड़कियों को क्या फिर घर में ही बिठाना चाहिए? So I asked him, I said, तो आपको क्या लगता है? And then having he's heard everything that I had to say, and yet it's something that's in his. So I said, आप बताइए. So he said, नहीं तो, लेकिन करें क्या? And that was the day I began to realize that this is not only about a rape. This is also about people, or young people definitely, asking to be allowed to lead and negotiate a certain kind of life. I want to actually be able to, in such times where I'm being asked to be frightened of what may happen, I want the world to also know, because the world is also like that we are all people who, I don't know, what do you say? Shall I? Will you? What do you think? This, to give ourselves the space to be able to work out, am I okay? Or even if it's a vulnerability, are you able to take on my vulnerability? Are you able to give me the space so that I can work out my... actually, that is what is more going on in my mind. Should I? Can I? It's not, should I? I don't know what may happen. And actually, a lot of the time in the walk, I am not referring to rape. I think I'm only just referring to how we are, how we want to be, what direction would we think to go in. There's something in doing the walk, and because in the middle of the walk, sometimes now these days I may go up to someone and I say, so if I hold out my hand, I don't know whether you want to hold my hand, and I'll have to read from your face whether you're ready to hold my hand. And so that you play out performance like as if it's life. for me, the walk, I think, is as close to life, a moment of life within the performance. Because I actually have to negotiate with that man. And for me, if I go up, usually I go up to a man and I say, if I put out my hand, he of course realizes I'm an actor. So he may be feeling a little shy, but he's also hearing what I'm saying, and I'm talking about consent. So he may not put his hand out, and then I say that, I've read in his eyes that he's not ready to hold out his hand. So I must be able to recognize it and go back. But I'm also in that moment reading his face, and I'm telling the rest of the audience that we must learn to read each other's faces and body language and whatnot. But it's also within a performance. So, this thing about a shifting line between where does performance end and where does that excitement. And after all that I'm talking about is, shall we walk? And we all walk, and we don't need to learn to walk. And we all know what walking is about. And yet this seems to be a slightly different kind of walk. And everybody did walk from 18th of December till the 30th of December. Everybody did walk. I think a lot of the walk is about little tasks. What can we do now? So if I were to come to you and say, hey, can I help you think your problem through? Is there any way? But I'm making it public that there are ways in which, what is the way to, because this is an issue in India. How do I go to a mother and say, it's okay for you to stand up against a chacha? We may say it, we may think ad nauseum about women's solidarity. It's not going to change her. She will still be that mother for her own familial reasons, will not expose her husband. Look at that case where the father was raping his 5 daughters. But I think my intention is to make public that we'll have to find a way to be able to give her, what is that confidence we'll be able to give her? I don't know. So that's why for me that gesture of, let me give you whatever it takes so that you can stand up against it. Even while I was doing a BA in sociology, MA in political science, at every juncture I would keep going to the NSD and filling up the form and getting admission, thinking that's really the direction I need to go in. But then I never ended up actually doing NSD. I would keep going back to these other subjects. I don't know why. Maybe, I have no idea. I do know, I feel now that it was because I did all this sociology, political science, it gave me another way of thinking and another personality and another person, which allowed me to become this solo performer who could make her own stuff, that kind of awareness or consciousness. So I made solo theatre for a good 20 years. In that sense, it's given me a way of looking at things, so that even if I read a story, if you read a manto, why a manto attracts me is because in that landscape, it's a political landscape, and I love history. And it's not that I'm getting into the politics of it particularly, but I'm drawn to subjects like that. And I think the benefit of having done these subjects gives me that landscape on which to create artistically. Politics and theatre came together in street theatre when I was teaching political science. And so we made a play on rape those days. So you were teaching the Constitution in the classroom, and outside you were making plays about, and in those days, I'm talking 1979, women's organizations wanted a play on the law, the CRPC, the Criminal Procedure Code on rape, because they were discussing custodial rape and so on. So somewhere politics and theatre kind of sat together like this on the street theatre platform, and it was also in my classroom in college. I would be talking politics, but I think as an actor, and then I would take these kids out and we'd do plays. So there was a kind of little bit of free flowing of politics and theatre. My first solo was Koldo, which is based on Bantu's short story. And so in that, it's all about an atmosphere you create on stage, whether it's of this old man just waiting in the dust-ridden sky for his daughter. Of course, you're aware of the audience and you're inviting them to enter this experience. I was 7 years old, and my mother, she was my first teacher. She taught me Bharatanatyam, and then she being a Malayali, was very fond of Kathakali. So you go and stand before the Guru, and we were 4 or 5 of us. All the others were made to do female roles, and he picked me out to study the male, and that was a great blessing. So from very early on, I was trained into Krishna and Arjuna and Bhima, and you always start with Krishna because he's very playful, and then Ravana and Hanuman and all these great roles. And the real meat of Kathakali lies in the male roles. In Kathakali, when you show love, that is love between two people, first you're stunned at, oh my God, how beautiful. Then it is a realization of that beauty. Then a realization of yourself, oh my God, I love this woman. And then it is, as she see it, I want her to see this love. This is the beauty of gesture, that it actually allows you to second upon second the sensuousness of it, and it's all contained in this. Body is great, words can complement, but don't fill your basket only with words, because we have a lot of forms, certainly in India, and we have this wonderful body that can sing, that can sense rhythm, that can, and this is in Katha, every part of your face, muscles of your face can move, You can show every second of life as it. And once you feel pleasure, there's also that next moment of, God, I can't believe, can I be so happy? No, it's not possible. No, it's not possible. I better hold on to this. No. Wow, that was great. Then you reflect on your pleasure. And all this becomes part of training, it can be training in drama school, it can be, and what it does, the beauty about theatre is, because you're training in all these moments of life, it also helps the person who's getting trained, her life and her sense of herself becomes broader and fuller and richer, because she has tasted all these experiences and emotions that exist out there. And she has found so many artistic, they're not realistic ways of showing pleasure. They're all very, from the body, and we're using, and if I go on doing this, I actually feel my blood racing inside. That's why they say that actually children should be, every day in school, they should be doing drama. Because drama is really the one art that connects every part of you, your mind, your heart, your senses, your social self. If children are in a very tight room and I say, don't bump into each other, they'll learn to care for each other. It's the ideal way to, everything in sexuality and gender that we go on talking so much about. We just need a bit of drama in school. But I don't know, for me that's the biggest one. Wow, how we are bringing up our children. And it's not just the boys. It's not just about, I get a little impatient when people talk about, oh, so men are as finding candles and bottles and whatnot to assault women and the horror of rape. And I know we are all thinking about, what is this kind of society that's producing this kind of generalized horror and crime and sense. It's not crime. This very fractured person. I must say that sometimes I do still, in the middle of the day, think about that guy who raped Jyoti Pandey, who then went to prison and then who hung himself, and that he has a brother who belonged to that neighborhood where nobody liked them. What was their life about? And how do we begin to address that? Those are the really big ones. Very, very big. Yeah. And I don't know, no studies. I don't know if there are any definitive studies around all this. But that's why there's something in me, and I know I'm saying it on camera, that I find it very difficult in a piece of theatre to simply come out and condemn the rapist. I can't do it. I don't even talk about rape. I neither want to talk about her suffering, and here I am, woman suffering. Neither do I want to talk about the rapist. One good thing that has happened is it's all out there. There's a way in which now we talk about sex quite openly. Even media is doing it. Yeah. So, like, I remember in the worst of all those rape cases, they were talking about the two-finger test and the. Though it's a very hideous way to talk about sexuality, but at least it got out there. Girls, I eavesdrop a lot when I'm out there and whether it is in a sense of agitation, the way people are talking, it's all out there. And there's a sense of, I get this sense of, like I was giving this example of, I think the fact that home and the public place, for young people, there is the home, there's the street, there's the institution to where you go, whether it's college. And now the sense of me as a college kid going through all this, and that the me is made up of everybody I meet and talk to and think, that it's not just about me and my parents and wo mujhe ye karne denge ya wo nahi karne denge. Everybody's out working in some BPO 3 in the morning. So a lot of who you are has got talked about in the papers. I mean, I think for young people to think we are getting talked about there, not that it's giving us a high, but that I think they certainly look at themselves with another lens, because so many people are looking at them. Lawyers were looking at them, constitution makers were looking at them, police was looking at them, politicians were looking at them. So this sense of all the lights blazing on them and the camera on them has given them another sense also of who they are, apart from how their own dialogues are changing who they are. So I think this is just a grand time in terms of possibilities.